call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order at 10 o'clock. Those who are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any public for comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? All right, seeing none. Any additions to the agenda from the board? No? All right, moving on to the meeting minutes. Aaron and Lisa always do a great job with that, but if there are any changes, no? We'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the meeting held June 17th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the meeting held on June 17th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to proclamations, we have proclamation number 34, proclaiming July as Bellefonte Union Cemetery Month in Center County. And we have, I think, Stephen and Connie, or is it more than that?
And more.
Okay, all right. If you'd like, please have a seat over here. Better camera angles for CNET and the news media. And for those of you who aren't aware, Bellefonte Union Cemetery is just uphill from the Center County Courthouse. And many, many famous Civil War veterans, a broad variety of Civil War generals, I think a congressperson, perhaps at least one governor are up.
Three, I think.
3 governors are up there. But what is interesting, it was a union of churches, so I believe the word union predates the Civil War.
It was a union of private cemeteries.
Okay. There we
And
go.
Curtin's owned one,
Yeah.
Burnside's owned the other.
Okay.
And the third one was just forming,
All right.
so.
So I'll hand it over to Stephen and Connie before make any other minor mistakes.
I'll let you go through copies.
All right.
Yeah. Our first formation was, what did I just say, July 19th, 1859. So that's when it was first formed. The 3 cemeteries got together. They maybe didn't incorporate till another, 5 or 10 years later, but that's when they formed the group. My favorite person buried there, and I tell everybody this, is William Petrikin, and he was
Oh, yes.
present for the Bill of Rights. So he was instrumental in forcing that issue, and he was present for everything that went on with it and for the ratification of it. And he moved here from Carlisle, as did a lot of our founders. As one of the other founders was in opposition to the Bill of Rights, so. But Bill Petrikin's my favorite person that's buried there. We have the 3 governors, and, one of those would be General Beaver.
Yes.
And the other generals we have there are brevet, so they achieved that after their service was
Yeah.
done. That was awarded to them afterwards. So it wasn't what they achieved from active service. But Beaver's there. There's over 200 Civil War veterans. There's over 800 veterans altogether in the cemetery. It's real hard to keep up with all of them and all the activity, who's who, where they're buried, whether it's straightened up or tidied up, whether the stone's still there, whether the stone's readable, if the VA can furnish another stone.
Yes.
All of those things are things that we deal with regularly. This year, I'll blow off for a minute. This year, we had a lot of storm damage.
Yes.
Yeah, and the insurance coverage just helps with that a lot, but
Yeah.
it doesn't cover, the initial removing all the trees. So we're dealing with that this year, which has delayed some of the other things we usually do, like planting flowers and maybe some of the more maintenance that, was there. But hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll get a lot of that done. And so it will be nice to have July be Union Cemetery Month and start to remember that really is our birthday.
Yes.
It's July 19th, and that's where it is. So,
And the first president of Penn State is buried there as well.
yeah, well, they were the first board of directors, the founders from Penn State. So, you know.
Well, Beaver's tombstone is my favorite one in there because it's pretty simple for what he did for Penn State and the Civil War. And his tombstone is a nice long marble slab, but it's not ornate, doesn't stand tall like
Yeah.
some of the other ones. So he's one of my favorites to visit.
And one of the things that we would like to do in this year or next year, it'll probably be next year because of the storm, is put up some kind of a storyboard that would recognize all of the members from Beaver's unit in the Civil War who died in service. Because there's over 200 of them, but they're buried in unknown graves in national cemeteries. So there's no place to go specifically, and people often contact us because Beaver's there. Are you sure he's not there? You know, no, it's not buried here. I'll try and find him for you.
Yeah.
You know? But so that's about all I have to say.
Anything you'd like to add, Stephen?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All
We're
right.
looking forward to getting more stones cleaned. We've gotten
Yeah.
about 700 and some odd cleaned, and obviously there's 8,500 of them, so we're going to keep trucking
Yes.
along on that. So, yep.
All right, well, I think you did miss one really important thing, and that is that the cemetery is so old that the maintenance fund was pretty much completely drained, and the cemetery, you have funds to cover, I believe, materials in some cases, but all of the work is performed by volunteers,
Yeah.
dozens of you, and without that, the cemetery would be in quite a state of disrepair. And the commissioners and the citizens of the county want to thank you for your thousands of hours of volunteer effort every year to keep you said about 8,500
Yep.
stone cemetery maintained, and now with the community services building opening up, you'll pretty much soon be located in between the two large Center County government
That's
facilities.
the other thing we'd like to do is get a footpath through the whole way,
Yes,
because there's really no sidewalk on High Street to
Right.
continue down. And
Yeah.
people often come through the cemetery, and there's not a clear path
yes.
for them to walk. So,
All right.
like, make a clear path. And that became obvious to us last year when we did the luminaries, because
Yes.
people came in from the courthouse
Yeah,
instead of from High Street,
Yeah.
as we expected them, or from the gatehouse.
Yes.
They used the courthouse as the entrance.
oh, all right.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for coming. Don't go away. We have comments from other commissioners. Present the proclamation. So Commissioner
Yeah.
Concepcion.
So thanks so much for coming in and highlighting what's really like a local treasure, this cemetery has, as you've mentioned, just like the sheer number of people who are really heroes and founders of our country. And the volunteer work that goes into maintaining the cemetery is tremendous effort from the whole community. So thank you very much for highlighting this today. And it's great that we get to recognize July, and I hadn't realized that it was that it had been called Union Cemetery, prior to the Civil War.
Yeah, it's definitely prior to the Civil War, and the gatehouse that just sold, the front portion of that used to be Curtin's home, and it was located where Babyland is. And they moved it when they combined the cemeteries, which was also previous to the Civil War. So they moved it and then built the gatehouse around that last piece. So that's Roland Curtin's first home, is the front left-hand portion as you're
Yeah.
looking from the street, is where Roland Curtin lived. And he was the first coroner. And
All right.
the doctor, Dr. Williams was the coroner also with him.
Yeah.
And Dr. Williams is buried there, but we don't know where. And Roland Curtin's sister-in-law is the first burial on the Curtin burial ground, and she was 1801.
All right.
So that's how long, it's a long time.
So
Incredible history there.
they would have had to move that house with horses then
Yes.
and human labor. Oh my goodness.
Yes,
Wonder how many Clydesdales that took.
many, I'm sure.
It's incredible.
Well, if folks wanted to help out, they wanted
Yes.
to be part of the volunteer effort, what's the contact information, or when do you meet, or how would they get involved?
Probably our website.
The website's the easiest. We meet the first Tuesday of the month at the Bellefonte Borough Building, and it's open to the public. And we try not to go real long, but it really does end up, we go from 6:30 to 9 o'clock usually. So, and, cover a lot of ground on a lot of different things, from I want to let my dog in the cemetery to my fence is falling down and it's your fault.
Well, so I see the work crews out there primarily on Saturdays, or is it
Yeah.
all days of the week?
All days of the week. Kevin is our board president, Kevin Corman. He's retired from corrections officer, and he brings prisoners in every other week. So every other week, we don't go in during the day because the prisoners are there doing the lawn.
That's a huge amount of work.
Yeah.
Huge saving. I mean, the machinery to keep them going is kind of expensive, but
Yeah.
the labor that we would pay in man hours is out of this world, so we couldn't do it without that.
Because all the grave markers are literally unique, and so it's not like you're in even rows or anything.
Yeah, they didn't
else.
plant them in
Yeah.
even rows, they just
Yeah.
slapped them down wherever they had space, and,
Yeah.
yeah. We were quoted by one landscaper, about $19,000 a month in mowing is what they said.
Just
it-
mowing.
I
Yeah,
would-
just mowing
yeah, I would think
and
that would be,
trimming.
yeah, that would be.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, that's probably a fair,
So, yeah,
fair
it's a lot of
estimate.
work. And then we have the community corrections and other volunteers on Saturday who come in and do stone cleaning and grave
But
sweeping and stuff.
if Saturdays don't work for someone and they contact on the website, one of us could probably meet somebody there a different day or be available a different day. It's not like we're all solidly on Saturday. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate all your work and making that landmark
you.
such an important part of our community
Yeah.
again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Well, again, we very much appreciate what you've been doing to keep that cemetery with 8,500 graves maintained. And give a shout out to Julia Sprinkle, who's probably in the next room. She did a lot of the work for our columbarium, which contains the
Yes.
cremains of, what would you say, unclaimed deceased from our coroner's office. So very much appreciate your help with that project, too.
No problem.
Okay, any questions from the press?
I'm sorry if this has already been covered. Is your fundraising strictly private, or do you receive funding from other sources?
It's private, yeah. The cemetery is run by the Union Cemetery Association, which relies on donations from the public and private fundraising.
There's other nonprofits that have done fundraising for the cemetery. The local DAR chapter put up a flagpole and a marker to mark that they put up the flagpole, but they put up a flagpole there by the fountain. Ladies of the Grand Army Republic has donated money a couple years in a row for different things. And other nonprofits are needed to help us, you know, so.
How much is it educational for which you folks are?
sign up there because I know a lot of people aren't aware when they hear about whether it's getting together to clean gravestones or whatever, they start finding out more about the cemetery. Have you found out that to be over recent years or?
Yeah, a lot of people, they drive around the edges of the cemetery as they're, going about their business, and they don't realize exactly who's in the cemetery and what goes into making the cemetery not look abandoned. And so,
And I know Matt Harris, the local historian, has
Yes.
done some tours recently, which has kind of brought in some, I work for Bellefonte School District as well, he brought in some of the teachers for tours and kind of opened their eyes to the amazing history connection. That's kind of also why I recently started helping, just a local gem for our students to learn about as well. And I think that's really important that he's doing that work as well.
Matt brings students in,
Yeah.
usually for day of caring, and they do a fantastic job with the heavy lifting that the rest of us old folks aren't so great at anymore. And I would say we uncovered at least 20 stones a year that are buried because the ground has shifted for no other reason.
Yeah.
So they were flat stones to begin with, but as the ground moves,
they
they get covered over and sink in, and it's hard to locate them. And what we do is locate them before the day of caring, flag them, and let the students, who are high school students, they love digging them up,
Wonderful.
so.
yeah.
Great.
Great questions, Gary.
Thank you.
Anything else? No, again, thank you so much for
Thank you.
using the
Thanks.
volunteer labor to keep that cemetery in good shape. Don't go, don't go.
Would you like a motion?
Yeah, we'll take a motion.
I will move to adopt Proclamation 34 of 2025, proclaiming July 2025 Bellefonte Union Cemetery Month in Center County.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to adopt proclamation number 34, proclaiming July as Bellefonte Union Cemetery Month in Center County. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. Come on up for the picture. As we always say, centered on Bellefonte. In your case, centered on the cemetery.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, there's three of you. Whoever's in the middle is then centered on Bellefonte.
There we go.
Steven, it's you.
Tight enough, JJ? or your location? There we go.
Excellent. All right, smile, 3, 2, 1. Oh, cute. Oh, good job. Okay, we're good.
You know, that's yours to keep. And,
I'll let you.
contact JJ and he can send you a picture.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Well. So are you in the big history part of it, Laura?
That's what kind of got me involved.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
it comes from the grandparents.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
Yes,
Good, thank you.
take care.
Yep.
Thanks. All right, moving on to contracts and authorizations. We will start out with our district attorney, Bernie Cantorna, with a contract with a company that sounds like a person,
Westlaw?
Thomas Reuters.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We call it Westlaw. Actually, it's a 5-year contract. Short story was, we've always had Westlaw. It's probably the best research product out there. And then last year, they tried to upsell us 40 grand a year. So we said, thanks, but no thanks. We went to Lexus, and guess what? They came back this year and offered us a contract that was consistent with the Lexus contract for 5 years. So we're asking to go back to Westlaw for a 5-year contract. There is a slight difference of $7,000 over the course of the 5 years, but that buys quite a bit of employee satisfaction in the
Yeah.
DA's office. So I'd ask that it be approved.
Well, thank you so much, Bernie, for negotiating strongly on that contract.
Yeah, actually, I have to give credit to our office manager who did the negotiation. But,
Very good.
yeah,
Commissioner
she did a great job.
Concepcion, Any comments?
Yeah, sounds good.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
Have you ever considered going back to those big bulky books?
It's- When everybody else does, yes. Until then, no. I did say no to the AI. I felt that they needed to write their own stuff.
Okay. No, I remember back when that was the way it was done, and there were bookshelf after bookshelf of your legal journals. And,
I was there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we thank you, and the bookshelf manufacturers don't thank you.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But the trees might.
Yes.
The trees and the support beams, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Lorax says hi.
Yes. Very good. Well, unless there's
Okay.
any other questions, especially
Yes, we have
involving,
some questions.
you have some questions involving Loraxes.
Nice
All right.
to see you, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
I'll move that.
Yes, crime is the same. Hasn't increased.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We don't sound like that.
Slightly
Yeah,
down, probably.
I'll move to add the contract with Thomas Reuters to next week's consent agenda.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to add the contract with Thomas Reuters to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. But Bernie, if you do need a nice speech about the Lorax, JJ's your person for this.
Got it? Got
I
it?
do have one. I do have actually a question
all
that's
right, sure.
related to this. What I would presume that the other court offices use a similar platform as this, or do they use a different one?
They use Westlaw. What their contract and what they've chosen is, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, I know the public defenders has a contract, and I know the judges have to have one, and it's a pretty good question.
Yeah, I was just curious if there might be some volume discount if we all bundled.
There might be. They actually might be, they may even be paying more than we are right now.
Well, it might be a
Can't answer that.
conversation we can have.
That would be a job for John Frenick.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right.
He doesn't have enough to do already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we
Great.
appreciate that.
Thanks, Bernie. Good question, Steve. All right, next up, we have Jonathan with one facilities project and one capital project.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm asking for your consideration and approval of a change order with Berkshire Systems Group to conduct a 5-year obstruction test on the standpipe, maintenance of the dry system air compressor, replacement of the dry system accelerator and gauges at the courthouse. This change order is in the amount of $5,216.29.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. That's actually a pretty reasonable price for a 5-year contract.
Correct.
And also, for those who haven't been following us over like the last 10 years, the dry system is a way to suppress fires in the courthouse without using a massive amount of water initially.
So the dry system is the pipe is dry 99% of the time. It
Yeah.
only gets charged with water whenever there is a fire.
Right.
This is in areas that could freeze, like the attic of the courthouse. So it's just to prevent any water leaks in the wintertime.
So keep it nice and dry until it's needed.
Yes.
All right. Any
Which we
questions?
hope it never is.
Yeah, any questions? All right.
I'll move to add the change order with Berkshire Systems Group, Inc. to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the change order with Berkshire Systems Group, Inc. to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 All right.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and then you have a capital project for us.
Yes, so next I'm asking for your consideration and approval of a additional design services proposal with MG Architects for the Community Services Building. This is for lease space 2, the engineering and submission plan set to Center Region Code, and as well as final electrical room design drawings for the automatic transfer switch. This proposal is in the amount of $22,880.
Great, thanks, Jonathan, and we are happy that we're moving forward with leasing some space in that building to a local nonprofit that we coordinate with very carefully,
Correct.
closely. Any other questions? No? All
I
right.
will move to approve the proposal with MG Architects.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposal with MG Architects. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great, thanks,
Thank you.
Jonathan.
Thank you.
And then Chris has multiple different projects, including some exciting news for potential homeowners.
And he always comes with an audio-visual component.
Oh, yes, well, we always appreciate that.
Yes.
So we
Thank you,
can
and
kind
good
of
morning.
mentally place it.
Sure. We have 3 memorandum of understandings on the agenda for today, but before I get into the specifics about those, just want to give an idea and remind the board as well as the folks out there that what these MOUs are, at
Yes.
least for the planning office. And the ones that are being presented today are a 3-party agreement in which the developer, the township, and the county is where the developer, township, and the county, whereby the developer agrees to reimburse the township for the cost associated with the township engineers processing, reviewing, inspecting, and approving the engineering details. So basically, it's just a contract that the developer will reimburse the township's engineers review and approving of the plan. The board isn't approving the plan itself, it's just a contract reimbursement. So we have 3 on the agenda for today. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then we'll go through the visual aids then in a
And I
second.
noticed they're all in Greater Bellefonte, I think specifically Benner Township.
They are all in Benner Township for this time.
Yeah.
Right. The first one is the preliminary subdivision plan for Fox Lane Homes at Buffalo Run. That's located in Benner Township. And this is a preliminary plan, and it's showing a subdivision of 50 single-family lots and then 1 sort of homestead lot, along with corresponding infrastructure. And this is located along the southern boundary. This is where the primary intent of the subdivision plan is going to occur. This is going to be what's called a homestead lot. It's owned by the Tomcos, and they have a sales agreement to sell basically the southern portion to the developers. Now, this is more specifically the area that will be subdivided for Fox Lane Homes at Buffalo Run. And this is Buffalo Run. As you're heading to the right, you're going toward into Bellefonte, and this is going toward the village of Fillmore. Access to it is going to be through a township road called Fox Ridge Boulevard. And the conceptual plan that has been developed by the engineering firm and the developer is shown up on the screen. There will likely be modifications to this as the engineer preparing the plan, so we'll address additional stormwater and access concerns. This is the primary road going into Fox Ridge Boulevard, and this is Buffalo Run Road with the single-family lots shown in dark. Let's hit no for now.
Yeah.
Stormwater management, at least initially, is going to be located in the northern corner as well as sort of in the lower 2/3. But again, the engineer is going to be fine-tuning the stormwater management, and so there will likely be modifications to this proposal. The second memorandum of understanding is for the Stuckey Pool commercial development. And I'll continue reading here. The Stuckey Pool commercial development is located in Benner Township, and this is also a preliminary plan that shows the subdivision of 2 commercial lots, with Lot 1 proposing the motor vehicle sales and service buildings for Stuckey, and Lot number 2 is going to be proposing 2 fast food businesses and 2 retail businesses along with corresponding infrastructure. And that is located along the Benner Pike at the traffic signal at the Giant grocery store. And then the third memorandum of understanding is what's called the Burroughs Warehouse, and that's located in Benner Township as well, and that's located in Pentec Drive in the Airport Park subdivision. It is the property that used to be the handy delivery site that they're proposing a warehouse just for their own personal storage of goods and products. And as we get the site back up, this is the one that is for Stuckey Pool, and this is the Giant grocery store with the existing traffic light. And as you're heading north, you're going into Bellefonte. This is the lot that's being developed for the True by Hilton on the Crossings property, and then this is the site of the county correctional facility. This is the plan that's initially been prepared by Pantera Engineering, and this is lot number 1. This is going to be Stuckey's service and sales center for lot number 1, and then lot number 2 is going to be eventually transferred to Bob Pool, and that's going to be for some commercial buildings as well as 2 fast food restaurants. And this is the existing 3-way traffic signal that's going to be modified to eventually be a 4-way traffic signal. And then the third plan that was mentioned is out near the State College Regional Airport, and this is High Tech Drive. And this is the location of Burroughs Street LLC, formerly the Handy Delivery taxi site. And there's 3 existing buildings, and what they're proposing is a 7,000 square foot building simply to store the owner's construction equipment, some HVAC, et cetera, on that property. And this is the plan that was prepared by the engineering firm, showing 2 different warehouse facilities totaling 7,000 square foot with 4 individual bays with 2 accesses on High Tech Road. And those are the 3 MOUs that are being presented today.
Well, that's quite a lot, Chris. We've got 3 projects of different types in Greater Bellefonte, specifically Benner Township, and one right on the Benner Pike. We've been seeing so much activity on the Benner Pike. I think pretty soon they're going to run out of land, but maybe not quite yet.
It's getting there.
It's getting there, though. And appreciate you explaining to the public that this is the county just making sure that all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed. We're not an active participant in the process.
Right.
But appreciate you reviewing things and explaining them so well. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Looks good.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
No, and I appreciate your diligence. One of those is our neighbor at the correctional
Yeah.
facility, so really appreciate your diligence in making sure that process has been a good one.
Thank you.
I know we've done a lot of work with the developers there to try to cooperate
Yeah.
to minimize some of the impacts, and I think it's been a very successful collaboration. I want to thank you for that, too.
All right, and you ready for questions from the press?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the press on any one of the 3 projects? Everybody's looking at Gary. All right.
You wanted me to
We're
go
looking at
first?
Jacob's got
Say, I
something.
know it's pretty early doors for those businesses on Benner Pike, but have any fast food restaurants or any other businesses indicated interest in going there once the lots are subdivided and, I guess, cleared out, since there are a lot of trees there now?
Yeah.
We have not been told of any either retail or restaurants or commercial businesses that will go there.
And then I guess this one is kind of more broadly for everyone up there, but this is very indicative of a lot of growth going on in Benner Township. Are you guys looking forward to more growth as the years go by? Obviously, Benner Pike itself is going to look a lot different probably in 5 years than it does now.
Well, I believe the Benner Pike is now something like the third or fourth busiest road in Center County. Center region is maybe not fully developed, but getting there, and obviously the borough of Bellefonte at something like, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, 2.4 square miles. It's pretty much full. And so now I think we're seeing fill-in between Bellefonte and State College. Obviously, these are all done with an eye toward proper drainage, proper provision of emergency services so that fire trucks can get in and out, and then the additional zoning requirements from Benner Township. Appreciate our partnership with Benner Township supervisors and staff. We're kind of a slow, steady growth here in Center County ever since about 1946 when the GI Bill was enacted and Penn State began to grow, but a lot of other wonderful things happening in Center County outside of State College as well. So we're obviously happy to see some slow, steady growth in the region, and Spring and Benner Townships are one of the more obvious places for that now. I don't know if any other commissioner would like to add anything to that.
Sure. So Center County MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, is pretty regularly kind of monitoring traffic on Benner Pike and all this development to think about, future safety improvements and improvements for pedestrians. So it's, with all this growth there, it's a place that we're, keeping a close eye on. So.
I think one of the interesting parts, back when I-99 was completed, 20 years ago, it was the thing, the Vision 2020, I think they called it at the time, was, all this growth and all this impact on it. And it's probably about 15 years behind schedule in that regard. But I think you're seeing a lot of the development, a lot of the growth, realizing that you now have a major artery between State College and Bellefonte, which has the capability of accepting a lot of business. And you're seeing a lot of residential growth in the Benner Township area, and it all just fits hand in glove, I think, to what the future of Center County in that area is going to look like. So.
Yeah, wonderful to see 51 new single-family homes being built. Hopefully they'll be at least moderately affordable. Gary, you had some questions.
You mentioned before PennDOT was doing an impact study of the corridor here. Do you know if that's been done or completed with the development there?
Right.
It's just beginning
Yeah,
with
the-
the MPO.
Right. There has been a committee has been formed to then do a study on the Benner Pike corridor through the MPO, Metropolitan Planning
Yeah.
Organization. That just started. It just kicked in.
And to address rumors, none of this land along Benner Pike is Rocky Prison Lane. It's not state
Haven't heard
property.
anything
Okay.
about that.
It may have been state prison land decades ago, but it's been off state prison land for quite a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions on that topic? All right. Well, seeing none, I think we could take a motion.
Okay, I will move to add the planning and community development items 1 through 3 to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the 3 items for planning and community development to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Everyone have a great day.
Well
You
done.
too.
Thank you.
And then I believe Chad has a contract with Johnson Controls.
Yes, good morning. I have a contract for consideration with Johnson Controls to provide the installation and configuration of the NVR and camera system for the ballot drop boxes. That will be in place in the fall at the PSU Hub and State College Borough Building. The total of that work is $3,148.
Great. Thanks for covering that, Chad. Appreciate Johnson Controls working with us on a small project
Yep.
that only lasts for a couple of months a year.
Yep. Yeah, they've done it a few years now for
Yeah.
us.
And crucially, this is the surveillance system that we make sure that we're, always have a camera and lights on those ballot boxes.
That's right, yep.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
Good, thank you.
All right.
Okay, I will move to add the contract with Johnson Controls Security Solutions to next week's consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second, to add the contract with Johnson Controls Security Solutions to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great, thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, and then Julia, who was mentioned earlier, has an approval for Act 148.
Good morning. I'm asking for you to consider the approval of Act 148 third quarter fiscal year 24-25 report. Children and youth is a little bit under the 75% we would expect them to be with their third quarter. So things are good in terms of spending with children and youth.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that children and youth is out there working hard, but we're a little bit under budget at this point.
True. Fair.
Any questions on that? No? All right.
Then I will move to add the Act 148 third quarter fiscal year 24-25 report to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to add the Act 148 third quarter state fiscal year 24-25 report to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks,
Thank
Julia.
you.
All right, and then Kathy has 4 items for us from the Super Department of Mental Health, Intellectual Disability, Early Intervention, Drug, and Alcohol.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have a number of different items on the agenda this morning. The first is a letter of agreement with Rule 62 Club to provide funding for the purchase of furnishings for the new clubhouse located in State College. This is a program that we identified for our opiate settlement spending that was approved by the settlement trustees. This contract total is $30,000 and is funded with opiate settlement funds that were received by the county for the time period June 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. The second is a letter of agreement with Abound Health to provide services that include home community supports, companion services, homemaker services, both permanent and temporary, respite care, transportation, and CPS community services for individuals with intellectual disabilities. This contract total is $69,300. Of that, the county match is that 4.615% match of $3,195. The rest is state funds for the time period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The third is a letter of agreement with CARES of Central PA to provide services that include community participation services, transportation, supported employment, and respite. Again, the county match is $1,844. The balance of the $40,000 is the state funds through our Human Services Block Grant. And again, is for the new fiscal year, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. And again, is for our Intellectual Disabilities Department. And the final letter of agreement is with Expert Community Care Management and is for supports coordination. This is a new contract this year for the July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. It is a small contract totaling $5,000. They will be primarily working out of Lycoming, Clinton County, but will be available to provide supports coordination for anyone who chooses them, probably in that northeast corner of the county, if anyone is interested. The county match portion will be $231, and the balance will be out of our HSBG funds.
Great, well, thanks for covering that, Kathy, and we appreciate the partnership we have with these agencies to provide services to Center County residents throughout the county, and we appreciate the state funding covering upwards of 95% of this. Commissioner Concepcion, any comments or questions?
Yeah, just a comment on the Rule 62 Club. So the reason we're choosing this as one of the places to send opioid settlement funds, it's a my understanding is it's an organization where people get peer-to-peer support.
Exactly.
Who are, working through addiction and.
Exactly. Rule 62 Club has been in existence for years. Started in a room above a little shop in State College, has worked independently for many, many, many years, and hosts a significant number of 12-step meetings and provides recovery support to hundreds of people throughout Center County, ongoing. Folks who are fresh in their recovery, folks who have been in recovery for years and years and rely on the 12-step meetings to help them on their recovery path. And so in the last 2 years, we worked with them to secure a grant through the Behavioral Health Alliance of Rural Pennsylvania. What we discovered at COVID is they were yet again losing their meeting spot. Has always been very hard for them to maintain their meeting spot in State College because of the building and the construction. Every time they would find a place, something new would turn up for their building and they would have to find a new place. So with this grant that they obtained through BHARP, they have purchased a condo. It is theirs, it is permanent, it will be their place. And so this is a wonderful permanency for the Rule 62 Club. The $30,000 that we're offering them with the opioid settlement funds is a very, very small portion of their overall project, but it adds to the permanency that Rule 62 will now have and be able to offer the community in ongoing recovery support for individuals who are looking for that long-term sustainability that they will have after they've completed treatment from our office or from wherever they receive that. They are also looking to expand their support to anyone who's looking for ongoing wellness, whether that be Weight Watchers, Al-Anon, any 12-step type of support. They look to open their doors and offer that as a meeting space. And it's a beautiful space. So this will give them some couches and chairs and tables and furnishings to kind of fill out the meeting space. It is ADA accessible, and it'll have a playroom for children while their parents are getting what they need, kitchen space. It will really furnish out the space for them. So this is a great opportunity, and they really hope that the community will see it as an opportunity that they can use the space as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Commissioner Dershowitz.
I'm fine, no, thank you. Well done.
All right.
Then I will move to add the MHIDEI DNA items 1 through 4 to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to add the IDEI drug and alcohol items 1 through 4 to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Any questions, Gary? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Just checking. All right. We'll, we have it was about a medium-sized consent agenda today.
I'll move to approve this week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on, we've got Liz with a letter of support for Worth Township for a DCED grant.
Yeah, good morning, thank you. Worth Township is going to be applying for the DCED multimodal funding that is due application July 31st. They really have a need expressed in the narrative that they supply to our office. They're looking to rehab a 2-mile portion of East Mountain Road. 4 main components to the project. It's a rather heavy lift for them.
Yes.
They are looking to replace 200 feet of drainage pipes with full installation. They want to widen and pave the entire length. A section of it, almost a quarter of a mile, will require putting in a new subbase. After that, they are going to widen the shoulders and do some other paving and aggregates. Having to restore the shoulders for adequate drainage, and they will adjust any kind of connecting driveways into the new pavement. I think one of the things that they really need your support letter for is that this project is nearly cost prohibitive for them.
Yes.
It's going to be nearly 4 times their annual revenues. This is what I really call a buster
Yeah.
for a municipality. The grand total cost estimate from PennDOT is $861,840. And PennDOT, DCED had waived for over a 4-year period the match. Worth Township has indicated that they do not have the match and will be asking for the full amount. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Well, I think we're happy to support that, Liz, and also happy that DCD is at least considering waiving the match, because as you mentioned, for some of these smaller townships, keeping the roads up is just absolutely cost prohibitive. Commissioner Concepcion?
Yeah, it sounds like a good project to support, really complex for a local township to cover themselves.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
I'm just glad we can help. I think that's an important little artery up there that needs to be corrected, so.
Yeah, they had applied in 2024 and did not get the award, so they're hoping that this year that they will be chosen.
Yeah,
Good.
hope so.
Good.
See what we can do.
Obviously, urge our state representatives and senators to maybe push this one a little bit. Any questions from the press?
Liz, last week's news from the feds on the change in financing for broadband is too early to tell, or is that going to impact on what's going on here in Center County?
I think it's a little too early to tell. We're waiting for the Broadband Authority to release more information on their website as far as the timeline and go over some guidance. The authority does meet, it's the second week of July, virtually their board meeting, so I'm hoping to get some more clarity then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Gary. Unless there's anything else, I think we can take a motion.
Okay, I'll move to approve the letter of support for Worth Township.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the letter of support for Worth Township. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Thank you,
Okay,
Liz.
thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the check run, Commissioner Concepcion.
Okay, the check I'd like to recognize today on our check run is for the ARC of Center County. They provide really crucial services for individuals with intellectual disabilities in our communities. And with that, I would move that we approve the check run that is dated June 20th.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the check run dated June 20th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. John, you have an administrator's report this morning.
Nothing to report at this time.
All right. Moving on to a presentation for Center County's 225th anniversary. I'll hand it over to Natalie, but we have Joe Davidson, our Recorder of Deeds, and Christine Millender, who has multiple hats. I don't know if you're doing Clerk of Orphans Court today, or? Both, okay.
So,
Natalie.
good morning. This is our continuation of our 225th historical presentations. And two of the departments that you mentioned today, that Joe and Christine are the elected officials and will represent today, are two that have been with us from the beginning. And so this is our opportunity to learn the vast history of both those departments. So they will come up front. Christine has a PowerPoint if the laptop is good to go. And they'll walk you through their information they have for you today.
Well, we'd
Learning
like
a
to-
little history, are we?
Yes, we'd like to thank two of our row officers for coming, and I believe yours were two of the very first row offices that started operating in 1800 or 1801.
1800.
1800.
They were still getting married back then.
They were?
No.
Actually, no.
No?
We didn't start doing marriage licenses till 1885.
Oh, wow.
What'd they do before then?
Church records or whatever, yeah.
No official government intervention in that process.
Chad, just the arrow button.
But the property records go back to 1800, right, Joe? The churches were
Absolutely.
handling those.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you going first?
I might as well, since I have the PowerPoint up here.
Okay.
Okay, so I am the Register of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court for Center County, and our records actually do begin at 1800. We do the probate of wills. We grant letters of administration for decedents who pass away in Center County. I am also, as the judge of the probate court, I am I guess I collect the inheritance tax for the state for any estates that are open. And you'll see a little bit in here, you know, the dollar amounts that we do collect. The records that we do hold in our office for wills and estates are public. They're public. Every record back to 1800 is on our Webbia site. So anything that is on the estate side of things can be seen along with the orphans court side. As I was saying earlier, marriage licenses began in 1885, but everything prior to that, orphans court would be guardianship papers for minors, adoption, things like that, that some of it is confidential, some of it is public, but our records, you know, do start back at that time as well. This is just information available to the public. Our wills, estates, and probate records began at 1800 and go to the present. Birth and death records, along with delayed birth and death records, which people came in later and recorded those, are from 1893 to 1905. Anything from 1906 is now recorded with the Department of Health in Harrisburg. So we can provide certified copies for genealogy purposes and for people that want to join, you know, DAR and things like that. But anything from 1906, they have to get from the Department of Health, not from us. We get calls about that all the time, thinking that birth and death records are local records, but they're not. They're state records now. Marriage licenses, as I said, began in 1885 and go to the present. The last year, we've probably issued in a month's time 600 to 800 certified copies due to Real ID. So we've been very busy with that. Guardianship records for incapacitated people and for minors are from 1800 to 2018. That date being 2018 is because the public access policy rules went into effect through the AOPC. So now, from 2018 on, a lot of those records are confidential, so they cannot be viewed in our office unless it's a final decree or a scheduling order for a hearing. This is just a comparison of some of our old records. There's a record back in 1888 as opposed to a current document. So a lot of handwriting, very hard to read at times, sometimes on onion skin, if any of you know what that is. But that's just a little bit of a comparison. These are just some statistics that I went back and looked at for 23 and 24. So marriage licenses, we issued about 657 in 23 and 653, 24. We've probated.
How many in 1885?
1885, I looked that up,
much lower.
251.
Lower number.
Yeah, so wills and estates, we do close to 800 a year. Guardianships for incapacitated persons, around 20 to 30 a year. And those, we have to maintain continuous reports every year on those by the guardians who are appointed. You'll notice the adoptions. We used to do much more, but one of our attorneys who was our main adoption filer in Center County has moved to Pittsburgh. So a lot of her adoptions are filed in other counties just for the convenience of her traveling. We collect the inheritance tax. We collected in 2023 $14.5 million, which we turn over to the state. 2024, over 18 million, and the county's commission, you'll see, for collecting that is what they kick back to us. So, you know, that goes back into the county's general budget.
And I believe you have to have a pretty large estate for the inheritance tax to kick in, as I remember.
No.
No?
It's
Even just
F-
relatively
The
small?
federal-
Federal's a big
Federal
number.
is 600 million, but
Okay.
state, it's from the dollar on.
Oh.
Yeah. This is just information that, you know, you can go onto the Webbia system and sign up for an account to view any. We used to have a lot of foot traffic into our office for genealogy research, but because everything is online, you can get an account with Webbia and people do it from their homes now. And then this is just a search request that you'll find available on my website that you can search. We will do your search for you. There is a form on our website that you can reach out. This is just a view of our office. I have 2 full-time staff, a deputy register of wills and a deputy clerk of orphans court, and we run a busy, tight ship, but I have very good staff that does very well. And then again, there's just our website. We do have public access computers available to the public for anyone that wants to come in and do research. We can help you with that. Just an overview of our office. These are the old indexes, so before computer age, this is what we worked in every day, and being that I've been there for 38 years, I used to lift those books every day. And now that I have to go lift them once in a while, I'm like, geez, my muscles aren't as good. But those are the old indexes, the buckets. I mean, just to give you an idea of what it was that we used to work with. And now we have, of course, just straight up files. Our records are permanent. We do keep about 20 years in the office at one time. Then everything else is shipped to Iron Mountain. And just an overview of, what our records look like. So, just a fun fact that Chad helped me with. So there's been 27 Register of Wills and Clerks of Orphans Court in Center County, and I've been honored to be number 27, so.
Who was the first?
The first was Richard Miles.
Wow.
1800 to 1804.
Like Miles Township, I would
Like
presume?
Miles Township,
I'm
yes.
guessing.
And I was privileged enough to know Harry Bird, Roger Beerley, Kim Barton, so I knew those ones. So anyway,
Nice.
any questions for me?
We're saving all the tough questions for
Yeah.
Joe.
All right, you're
No.
up, Joe.
All right, Joe. You're on the firing line.
I didn't bring a fancy PowerPoint presentation like Christine, so I'm just going to give you some facts and some history about the Recorder of Deeds office. And what are land records? Well, land records are permanent public records that exist to provide constructive notice of interest in real property and include deeds. The public records preserve evidence of facts which may not be known through actual personal knowledge. This means that records may be used as proof of information they contain regardless of a person's actual knowledge of their contents. Deeds and other instruments are created to convey rights or obligations between parties in real estate transactions. Land is a major source of wealth in society, and because of its permanence and usefulness, it represents one of the most valuable assets of any society. Its perpetuity makes it valuable and attractive to a wide variety of things, and governments derive substantial revenues from real estate taxes and other land-related transactions. Property ownership is a basic pillar of the American dream. The laws of real property were among those powers not specifically granted to the federal government, and thus were reserved to the states per the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. Land records in Pennsylvania include documents such as deeds, mortgages, assignments, liens, satisfactions of mortgages, right-of-ways, easements, sales agreements, land development plans, and many, many more. These documents show who owns the land and who has an interest in that land. After a real estate transaction is concluded, the documents are presented to the recorder for recording, making them available for public inspection and preservation. These records have always been permanent, meaning that the recorder has a responsibility to preserve them forever. Recorders do not change, alter, modify, or construe the contents of the documents. Their responsibility is to keep and maintain a true and accurate replica. Additionally, these records must be able to be searched, viewed, and copied. Center County was one of the first counties in Pennsylvania to offer online access to indexes and images for the recorder's land records. Due to the large volume of documents being recorded over the years, recorders create an index to help searchers find specific documents. I would estimate that the recorder's office in Center County has more than 1.1 million individual records and documents, and 3.8 images or pages of those land records under our jurisdiction that date back, of course, to 1800 when Center County started. There have been more records recorded in Center County since the year 2000 than there have been since 1800 to 1999. You can think of the Recorder's Index as a library card catalog. It may be cross-referenced in several ways, but it leads you to the primary source, the recorded document. Specific elements of the Recorder's Index are statutorily required, and such as grantors and grantees are the buyers and the sellers. In order to maintain the searchability of records in Center County, we've indexed additional data elements that go well beyond the statutory requirements. Information is the lifeblood of any successful business and the American economy. The economic engine of land transfers and encumbrances of land transactions had a financial impact exceeding trillions of dollars last year just in Pennsylvania alone. In Center County in 2024, the Recorder's Office revenue generated from the recording activities exceeded $24 million. The primary function of the Recorder's Office is to record, preserve, protect, and reproduce legal documents as they relate to real estate in Center County. And we act as the official collection agent for the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue and Center County's municipalities and school districts for realty transfer tax. As you know, Center County was formed in 1800 from parts of Mifflin, Northumberland, and Lycoming counties. As the recorder, I have the responsibility to serve the citizens of Center County and stakeholders engaged in all legitimate transactions and as prescribed by the county code and the state laws. I direct and assist our staff to employ property records industry standards and best practices and couple excellent customer service with public outreach to make property record transactions safer, faster, secure, and more convenient for everyone. And my research indicates that I'm the 33rd recorder of deeds for Center County since 1800. Thanks for allowing us to give you a couple insights of the offices that we represent. And if you have any questions?
Well, great. Thanks for the presentation, Joe and Christine. Based on some meetings we've recently had with our assessments office, just the value of taxable property in Center County is something in the range of $23 to $27 billion. And without those records, it'd be a real mess.
Yeah. I brought with me the first deed book for Center County. This is what we call Deed Book A. And the first deed is an actual transaction here from, the document is dated April the 8th, 1800. It wasn't recorded until December 30th, 1800, because back then it took a while to get to the courthouse in Bellefonte. And this represents a sale between Jacob Baker, his wife Hannah Baker, and Cornelius Comegyo, and Catherine, his wife, and to Ralph Peacock and John Herschel, Wrenshall. And there's 10 different tracts of land on this document, and each tract is about 400 acres, more or less. This is the way it's described in the document itself. And they're referenced as the Richland tract, the Belmont tract, the Bedford tract, the Upland tract, the Plainfield tract, Sunderland tract, Newton tract, and so on. And these gentlemen, the Bakers and Comegyos, had a 1/4 interest each in a fourth of these properties. And so there's like 4,000 acres represented on this first deed from Center County. And the first one of you that comes up with the closest consideration or price for this 4,000 acres, I'll buy you lunch.
I'll go with 12 grand.
Okay, next. 6,000? Amber?
5,000.
How about 5 shillings?
5 shillings?
5 shillings is what the consideration says in the deed.
That's nothing.
Well, that meant that that was a handshake agreement there. That was.
Well,
I don't know how much a
Yeah.
shilling's worth, but I don't think you get 4,000 acres for.
well, you got a partial interest in these 10 tracts for 5 shillings.
I thought we were buying.
Still. that must have been some sort of transfer from one generation to another.
So that's why we keep the records. You know, if anybody wants to take a look at this book, this is the actual page from 1800. I don't know if you can get that on the,
And Joe,
Video
that
note.
book you have refurbished because they put it in the plastic sheets. Because we've done that with some of our books because they're just breaking apart.
Yes.
So there's a company we've been doing little by little that comes in and takes them apart and protects the page.
in 2004, this book went through a restoration and preservation process. And all the pages in the books were deacidified, they were mended. In some cases, they were fixed with special tissue paper and then encapsulated in these Mylar acid-free envelopes to preserve them hopefully forever. And all the pages that we have in the Recorder of Deeds office are backed up in microfilm, and they're imaged with TIFF images and PDFA additional backup.
Yeah, I just looked up a shilling. It was what I remembered. It is 1/20th of a British pound, or about 12 pence. So that sounds to me like they weren't some
family.
stranger buying
Yeah.
land from some other stranger. This was
Well,
some sort
yeah.
of
Good
family
deal, though,
transaction.
either way.
Excellent deal.
All the parties in this transaction were from the city of Philadelphia.
All
So
right.
even in 1800, there was out-of-town money being
Oh,
spent
yeah.
in Center County.
Yeah.
I have two questions, Joe. I know a number of years back, we were invited to attend I think it was the 150th anniversary celebration of Clinton County. And at that point, the discussion was, the part of Clinton County was made up of parts of Center County. But I think, what did Center County look like in 1800? Because it didn't look like that.
I have the maps on the wall down in the office, if you want to come down and take a look at it, yeah. We have this specific outline of the county when it was formed,
Lock Haven used to be in Center County at one time.
Yeah.
or very close.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the second question I have is, they always refer back to, like, when they were deciding who, what boundaries and whatnot, there was a concept of a warrant. What was a warrant back in the old-timey days? What did that constitute?
The warrant was a segment of land that was issued by the Commonwealth, sometimes as compensation for officers of the Revolutionary War's service. They typically had about 420 acres for each warrant, and they were issued by the Commonwealth to those that applied for them. And there were 4 different processes that you had to go through in order to take possession or take title to a property from a warrant. It was the application for the warrant, the return of the application, and then you got a patent, and then you got a survey, and then you eventually got a deed for the property from the warrant.
All right,
But
thank
the
you.
warrant is essentially an application from a grantee to get property from the Commonwealth.
Because I know they refer back to those in probably some of your original documents.
Yeah, we have a warrant map of all of Center County, and you can even actually overlay the original warrants on the GIS map that is provided on the Webbia service for you, and you can see exactly which warrant, approximately which warrant your property came out of if you're a Center County resident.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Concepcion, anything?
Yeah, thanks. This is really interesting knowing that these offices, really started their work in 1800 and you've continued to keep those records, intact over 225 years. It's, really a testament to like how the importance of county government in terms of maintaining records for our communities over time. It's, it's always like really impressive to me whenever I've gotten to see some of these really old papers and how well they've been preserved, and just the history that they tell is fascinating. So,
Yeah,
thank you so
this
much.
document itself, it doesn't describe municipalities, but it says in the Nittany and Bald Eagle Valleys as the
so they already
locations
use that nomenclature.
for the description.
The other thing I think is fascinating about it is in 1800, somebody said, okay, you're elected to office. You probably didn't even have an office at that time. They probably had to
Right.
build one, and then there was no infrastructure. It's not like you had anything to go by. You know, at some point, somebody had to figure this out as they went along, which is, you know, kind of what the traditions that we have are built on. And I think it's just fascinating if you think back how much ingenuity and hard work went into the establishment of not only our country, but even our county. So, and we appreciate your efforts keeping those things going. So.
There were several county jails and basements along High Street, and I think there were a number of judicial offices in the parlors of the houses on High Street.
Well, it's even just to go back and look at some of the estate inventories and stuff, like they list chickens and,
Yes.
I mean, like things that you wouldn't think about. If you look at the death records, like the causes of death are not what you see on a death certificate today. I mean, they're,
Consumption.
yes, so.
Well, I was recently reading that the death rate from accidents was 700% higher when we had horses in New York City. Because obviously, a horse isn't like a car. A horse has a mind of its own, and oftentimes horses would freak out at weird noises and just go nuts and trample people. Questions from the press?
That was it's always interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Reminds me of a quote that Henry Ford said once. He said, "If I'd have asked the public what they wanted, they'd have told me faster horses."
True? Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so Mark, what's
Thanks.
the verdict here? Who was closest to 5 shillings for lunch?
Well, I think it was Amber.
I think it was.
She was saying
The lowest.
5,000. We didn't know it was a related
None of
party
us were very
transaction.
close. We were all pretty far off.
Literally, it sounded like each share was
Well,
about 60
actually,
cents
I do
there,
have
Joe.
one other question. You were the United States of America at that point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were we doing with shillings?
Yeah.
Why don't we have pennies and dollars and
The
such?
British pound
American
was...
dollars didn't consolidate until.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, until.
Oh, no,
No wonder.
the British pound and the Spanish pieces of 8 were major forms of currency, I think into the 1820s.
I'm glad we got that
And
sorted
at
out.
that point, Steve, dollars were issued by individual banks.
Yeah.
Not the federal government.
All right.
So sometimes they were worth $1 and sometimes they were worth a couple cents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Depending on
Good
the
to know.
bank. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, little history lesson there. Moving along, voters registration report.
Okay, so today on our voter report, we have 101,661 total voters registered in Center County. That is down 14 from last week. So of those, we have 41,264 who are registered Democratic, 160 Green Party, 559 Libertarian, 15,584 with no affiliation, and 42,083 Republican voters. All of the minor parties comprise 2,011, bringing us to that total of 101,661 today. Looking at our precinct of the week, we are highlighting Precinct 6, Center Hall Borough. There are 775 voters registered in Center Hall Borough, and they had a voter turnout of 27% at the last election. They vote at the Center Hall Fire Hall at 134 North Whitmer Avenue in Center Hall, and we would like to thank Center Hall Fire Hall for the use of their building for running elections. So that's our voter report.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion. I believe Center Hall is our 4th most populous borough in the county. For announcements, Center County government offices will be closed on Friday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. John, do we have any executive sessions to report or hold?
No executive sessions to report or hold.
All right, and the remainder of our public meeting schedule on Thursday, June 26th, we have Finance Committee at 9, combined Board of Commissioners and Salary Board meeting at 10. On Tuesday, July 1st, Board of Commissioners meeting at 10, and again, Tuesday, July 8th, Board of Commissioners meeting at 10. And does the press have any more questions?
Standard questions, has the county heard any more from DOC on Rockview?
We have not, to the best of my knowledge, no.
Have you had any kind of indication from state lawmakers that this has become a budget negotiation issue?
Nothing specific. We're just hoping that the Department of Corrections is taking a deep dive and taking a real close look on, if those 2 facilities need to be closed or perhaps just a partial closure. hoping that they're taking a close look at it.
Any update from Department of Homeland Security?
No update on that either.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Any other questions for the press? No? All right, unless there's anything else for the go to the order, we'll take a motion to adjourn at 11:15.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn at 11:15. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thanks for coming, everyone. Sorry we went over, but a lot of interesting stuff today.